Let me just say, after video distorting the belt to proclaim me the real world champion, I'm going to tell you all, with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life. When you walk around this world and you tell everybody you're number one, the only way you get to stay number one is to be number one.
Woo! Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network, powered up by the Belly Up Sports Network of podcasts. Sit back and enjoy as we bring you the latest and greatest in the world of sports, everything from the Detroit Lions to the state of Michigan sports to around the country and around the world. So what are you waiting for? Let's get out there and let's watch the latest edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. And welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on Belly Up Sports and, of course, on our website, our YouTube channel, which is the Captain Lou Sports Network. Yours truly, Captain Lou, with you in the chair. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, and without any further ado, let's go to our guest line, if you will. Let's bring in Vic and Carl from the Windy City Digits. They've got an awesome YouTube channel and a great podcast themselves. Fellas, welcome to the show. How are you?
We're great. Thanks for having us on. I love the opening that you have with Ric Flair. That's awesome.
It is awesome.
You know what's funny is now he's saying he passed out twice in that match last night or last week, and now it looks like he wants to wrestle some more. The guy's going to wrestle till he's 90 or until he's 6 feet under.
He's timeless.
They're going to keep wheeling him in. They're going to bring him in a wheelchair every single chance they get. Keep bringing him in.
Oh, for sure. Hey, guys, let's get right into it. Man, it's football season. There ain't a better time of the year, not for me anyways. And, I'm an NFC North guy, just like you guys. You know, you guys being Bears fans. I was reading about your new coach, Matt Eberflus. He's only the 17th coach you guys have had. I think my Lions have had 17 coaches in the last 15 years, man.
Yeah.
Give me your first impressions of him. I know it's early, obviously.
I'm gonna let you go ahead. Here's the thing with Eberflus that I've seen so far is that he seems to back up what he's saying. Like, he seems to be very much a player's type of guy, but he's letting his position coaches do a lot of the work. In other words, like, he's not getting in the way. He's not a micromanager. He seems to be bringing the guys in that he trusts, that kind of have the same philosophy in it as him. I think the biggest thing, he's got a great relationship with the general manager, Ryan Poles, and it seems like it's a good combination right there. So far what we've seen, it seems to be very impressive. His press conferences have been very refreshing, very open, very honest. So far, and I don't know about you, but so far I like what I see.
What I really like about we're calling him E Pluribus Unum because his name is kind of difficult to pronounce. Actually, one of our guests said that, but he's very detail oriented, which Nagy was not. Yeah. Our players have come out of training camp impressed with the amount of detail that he's putting into practice. So, and he's got that hit principle. I don't know if you've heard about that through the Colts, where he finds players for, ticky-tack fouls, offensive fouls, and he's looking to cut back on that. I guess in the Colts had outstanding. They were like on the lower end of those kind of calls every year he was there on the defensive end. So looking forward to it.
You know, it's an exciting time. It seems like I mentioned with the Lions, it seems like every couple of years we get a new regime through. You know, I watched Hard Knocks the other night. The guys got me ready to go through a wall. You know, I think it happens. I busted my camera tonight, getting excited for the show. So that's why I'm on my FaceTime cam. So I got to get a new video cam before high school football starts. But, you know, it's an exciting time of the year for you. But right now you got a little bit of a controversy, obviously, with Roquan Smith. I've heard stories about, you know, the contract he was offered. It was kind of backloaded, which, you know, we all know those can be fugazis. I mean, you know, they could let him go. How bad is it with Roquan right now in Chicago?
Hey,
go ahead. I'll let you start on this one.
All right, so I was listening to we've got some really excellent talk radios here in Chicago, and one of them has Brad Biggs, who reports on the Bears quite a bit. And to put it bluntly, he doesn't know what's going on. Carl's got a really strong opinion on this. I could see it going either way, but I do think that he's going to end up playing with the Bears. But I don't know. All bets are off. I mean, it sounds like it's a possibility that he could be traded too.
Yeah, my take on this is that I think, for those of you who don't know, he's negotiating his own contract. He fired his agent, and he's his own. Yeah, he's his own negotiator. And so, one of the things I think is that he's kind of inexperienced with this. He doesn't exactly know. Like, he's asking for $20 million a year, right around that number. You hear a lot of experts. He's not worth that kind of money. The overall number that they presented to him, he's one of the top players. He will be one of the top paid players at his position. The one thing that you have to keep in mind is that we're going from a 3-4 to a 4-3 this year. So his role is going to change a little bit, but no doubt he's still a talented player. He's still a really good player. And I think eventually he's still going to sign before the season starts. But part of this is because he's negotiating himself. He doesn't know all the ins and outs. He just sees the number. He's probably getting some really bad advice from someone as to, like, hey, you're worth this. This is what you should get paid. He did the exact same thing when he was a rookie. He held out right until the first game. So I just think that this is Ryan Poles is doing exactly what he needs to do. And I think that he's going to eventually sign, but it's not a good thing when you're trying to negotiate. He's not a lawyer. He's not an agent, and all he sees is he wants certain things. And I just think that some of his requests, I think, are just what he thinks in his head is a good idea, and it's probably really not.
Vic, I look at it, and it's you've got a new coaching regime, like we mentioned, and it's so important to get those reps in. And you start off kind of behind the eight ball, man. That's crucial.
It is. Yeah, the Bears have a whole lot of new players coming in. They've already had some injuries on the wide receiving core. You're trying to get Justin Fields some rhythm, and you're going to depend on our defense to keep us in games. So you're right. It hurts the whole unit.
Well, that's a great segue to my next question. Justin Fields, his progress. I know he was a rookie last year. It's hard when you kind of know that your coach is kind of a lame duck. Well, let's face it. You could see the writing on the wall in Chicago, just kind of like the goofball we had a couple of years ago, Matt. It's year 2, but year 1 again. Any progress? Can you see any improvement from year 1 to year 2 with him, or is it? Vic, I'll ask you: is it like starting over again?
No, I don't think it's starting over again. I think he did get some good experience under his belt with Nagy. Obviously, I don't think they utilized him the right way. They had a very weak line, and I'm not so sure their line is anything but a little bit better right now. But I think he took some really good things from last year. He was not releasing the ball quick enough. His footwork needed a little bit more fixing, and it sounds like he's working on it, and he's been gelling with the receivers and working really good with them, which is important.
And Carl, I loved that pick last year when they got him. I knew what he did in the Big Ten. I think he's got the makings to be a good quarterback. It's one of those things, in my opinion, if he can keep his confidence up, I think he could do damage for the Bears.
Yeah, you know what? We kind of go through quarterbacks like you guys through head coaches. Like it's kind of along that line, right? So in a facility not too far from where the Bears practice, the Bears opened this workout facility called Bears Fit. It's just a public gym but it's co-owned by the Bears. And it's a place that I work out. And I remember on draft night, I was in that facility when draft night came out. And the team that was before the Bears, and I can't remember who it was at the time, when they passed on Justin Fields,
you knew it.
The gym went nuts.
Yeah, wow. We were excited, man.
The gym lost their mind. Like everyone was just waiting. and everybody stopped what they were doing and just waiting for a couple minutes, just wait and see the pick. And the second they announced Justin Fields, the place lost their mind. So here's the thing with Fields, like we're learning slowly but surely just how poorly coached he was last year. Like you seem to be a very knowledgeable football person, and I see the Michigan stuff you've got in your background, right? And so we just found out recently in Chicago, like they didn't even practice a scramble drill at all last year. And so for a guy like that, with a mobile quarterback like that, to not even try to practice a scramble drill seems mind-blowing to me, right? So I think the biggest thing he learned from last year was the fact that he got some NFL experience. He got an idea of the speed of the game, the pace of the game, and it just looks like it looks like Getsy, who came in from Green Bay, who's come in, who worked with a mobile quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, like a great quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. There's some great things that he can apply. He's proven, like he knows what he's doing, right? And he knows how to coach those type of quarterbacks. So we're excited to see what Getsy has in play. You've probably seen a lot of the public reports, a lot of the national media like NFL Network and ESPN. They're ripping this team because they haven't given any help. There's no offensive line. There's no receivers. But I think the team has kind of rallied around that and kind of used that as a motivational tool. We're kind of optimistic about
we will find out.
Yeah. We're kind of optimistic, but we'll wait and see. But so far, we like what we've seen so far of Justin Fields in the second year.
What David Montgomery, I think he can be a stud for you guys. Can he? Obviously that's the big question. Can he stay healthy? Is he the go-to guy now in Chicago? Is he going to be the main guy in the backfield?
You know what? I don't know. We haven't heard a ton, even from training camp, on the running backs. The running back team itself declares it as one of the best in the NFL between David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. They're very both capable running backs. Their ability to catch the ball is pretty darn good too, and they're actually really good blockers. And now for the first time, they have a really decent halfback, which we didn't have before. I forget the guy's name that we picked up. You remember that?
Fullback.
Yes. Yeah, but I forget the guy's name.
We both forget the name. We always forget the guy's name.
Yeah,
it's been so long since we have a fullback in the backfield.
Yeah.
We can't remember the guy's name.
I don't know about you, but we sometimes forget names. Period. We're around 50 ourselves, and we forget stuff like this.
That's a sign of intelligence, guys. I keep telling everybody, man.
That's what I'll have to use.
Well, it's. I guess my big question now is on. I got to ask you. When you guys traded for Khalil Mack, I thought it was a great trade at first, man. I thought, boy, that's going to put you guys over the top. I thought you could, and I'm not trying to rub it in because Detroit's made their share of blunder moves in all sports, but how was he overall for you guys? Was it a disappointment with the trade? I know hindsight's 2020, but how was he in Chicago in your eyes? You're there all the time.
I thought it was great. I think the way it ended was more of a disappointment.
All right.
But that one year we went to the playoffs, Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator, and he really did a lot of great work with that whole team. But for some reason, when Fangio left to get the head coaching gig at Denver, they just couldn't get the right defensive coordinator. They tried guy after guy after guy, and they just couldn't get it right. And they just couldn't get the right scheme. They couldn't get the right players in place. And it just seemed to, we had great players. Like we had Eddie Jackson, we had Roquan Smith, Eddie Goldman, Akeem Hicks. We had some great defensive players, but we just couldn't get the scheme right after Fangio left. So I wouldn't say that Khalil Mack was a disappointment. I just think that it was the front office that kind of messed up and the head coaching, because we're understanding now how bad of a head coach really that we had here. So it was just, I would say more than a disappointment. It was really more, we just couldn't get the right guy in place.
He kept on getting hurt towards the end too. So he was having a hard time staying on the field.
Vic, it's funny. Carl brings up a point about Nagy being, not the smartest or the brightest guy. The national perception of him, you guys would win a few games, he's a genius. You lose a couple of games, he's an idiot. I mean, I never saw such back and forth on a head coach as I saw nationally then with Nagy. It was incredible.
Yeah, Nagy, I don't know. He disappointed us on a weekly basis. Even if we won, we were scratching our head like, why'd you call that timeout? Or why didn't you call that timeout? Why didn't you throw that flag? Why in the world are you throwing the ball for a 3-yard pass when you've got 15 yards to go? His play calling was like really confusing. I think that's what mostly bothered Chicago fans.
Okay. But in the other, Carl, I look from afar, being in Detroit or in Michigan, Chicago's been known for their defense. Well, ever since I started watching them, 45, 50 years ago. I mean, how do you guys keep doing it? How do you guys keep getting such stout defenders? And, it's amazing to me because Detroit's defense has been so poor for so many years.
So, Vic and I bring this up all the time on our show. Like, we go back to the 85 Bears. I go back even further. Like, I go back to Peyton in his early years, like late 70s, early 80s, before we brought Ditka in. And Ditka's the guy that really kind of established it, really. I mean, we had great middle linebackers like Butkus, Singletary, those type guys. But look, if anyone that's been a Chicago Bears fan forever, unfortunately, we kind of take it for granted that our offense is going to suck. Like that's just a given.
You gotta have something good, right?
And the only saving grace for us every year is the defense. Like that's what we look forward to every year. Like we want turnovers. We want every team every year to be like the 85 Bears. That's exactly what we want every single year. So are we excited about Justin Fields? Yes, but to be honest, like in the background, like we're just waiting for that other shoe to drop. Like we're just waiting for him to either get hurt or to show that he really wasn't the guy. We kind of talked about this earlier. I've lost track. Probably, like you say, you've gone through like 15 head coaches. We've probably gone through 20 quarterbacks in the last 3 years, it feels like.
You bring up the 85 Bears. I got to have you indulge me for a minute. In 1985, I went to a college radio conference in Chicago. I think I want to say it was Loyola put it on. And it was we stayed at the Mart Plaza right before they filmed a commercial for McDonald's with Refrigerator Perry.
Yeah.
But we got to see Chuck Swirsky. He was one of the speakers. And I can't believe it's been 37 years ago. But what a fun time that was in 85. And God, you guys were so dominant. And if I remember right, it was either the year before that, you guys signed up because I know the one year you ended up having Walter Payton be a quarterback against the Lions at the end of the year because your quarterback situation was so banged up. And then Greg Landry. But getting back to 85, I remember that so well. What a fun year for you guys. And that defense to me still is the best I've ever seen. Ever.
Well, it was the year before, is the 84 team that really kind of started it because they were the ones that came out of nowhere, really. And they were like in great shape. And then really diehard Bears fans will remember that right at the beginning of the year of that 85 season, two of our best defensive players, Todd Bell and Al Harris, held out.
Oh, wow.
And they held out the entire season. They didn't even play in the Super Bowl because they thought they were that valuable. So some of the guys that played that year weren't even supposed to be playing. So sometimes I wonder if we were really ever going to be that good. But all I remember about those years was back then the TV calls. I think it was Summerall and Madden. For us, we had a great radio team. It was Wayne Larrabee, Dick Butkus in the radio booth, and Butkus was losing his mind every single game. Like that was the best part of watching those games because I would just turn off the TV and listen to the radio call because he was just so good.
And you mentioned Chuck Swirsky. That guy is one awesome person.
Oh yeah.
He's one of the nicest people out there in radio and in TV.
He sure is. Yeah, it was funny. It's hard to believe it. He was a young guy back then, and it was just. And now you look back on it, it's like, holy cow. He's done the Bulls games for how many years? He did the Pistons for a bit in Toronto. Crazy. Hey, yeah. I look at your schedule, Vic. I'm going to start with you. And people think I'm crazy, but I got to tell you, if you can get through the first part of that schedule for the Bears this year, I think 5 out of your last 7 are at home. And the end of the year, those road games are at Seattle and at Cleveland. I mean, who knows what the hell the Cleveland's going to be like at the end of the year.
That is true.
You're coming to Detroit. I beg your pardon. I'm looking at your preseason games. You've got 5 of your last 7 games at home, but your road game is the Lions, I think, on New Year's Day. But you got the Packers at home. You got the Eagles at home. I think that's a winnable game. Mm-hmm. And I just think there's a legitimate chance that you guys could still go, in my opinion, 9-8 and fight for a wild card.
So that's interesting that you say that, because Carl and I think they're going to go 8-9.
Okay.
And Carl thinks they're going to go 9-8. But with some of their recent signings of Reif and Schofield, I felt a little bit better that maybe they could go 9-8 with some extra protection for Fields. I do like them beating the Packers in Soldier Field. And I really think that the Lions and Bears actually, in terms of their record, could be very similar. That's my opinion. Because I was really impressed with the Lions the end of the year. I mean, if we could have a Bears team that played with that kind of intensity the way they did at the end, we'd be excited.
And Carl, I'm sorry, and I'm not buying into the Vikings hype. I
totally agree.
I don't get it. Kirk Cousins, he reminds me of Scott Mitchell back in the day. He can throw for a ton of yards, but when the big games are on the line, I don't see it, and I just think I just don't buy it. And I think Green Bay is good. As long as they got Aaron Rodgers, they're decent. I know that's a dirty word in Chicago. But I just,
we know it.
I think this division, Green Bay may win it, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think.
The lefty Scott Mitchell was a great quarterback. I loved watching that guy play.
I did too, man.
We loved watching that guy play. So look, I think the division, to be honest, is wide open.
Yeah.
I mean, the Packers wide receiving core, I'm kind of, and I gripe about this all the time on our show. Everyone's complaining about the Bears receiving core. I think Green Bay's receiving core is worse. And
they are on paper. They are on paper from the year before.
And Rodgers doesn't have his safety blanket, right?
No.
Devontae Adams was a safety blanket. He just found that guy whenever he needed to, just kind of threw the ball up and Devontae got it. He doesn't have that this year.
Yeah.
And
I still think you're wrong on that. Rodgers makes other people better like Brady does. So
we argue
this all the time.
But I agree with you. And to be honest, I think the Lions are in better shape than either the Vikings or the Packers. Like, you guys drafting Aiden Hutchinson, that was huge. That guy is going to be a pest in our side for years to come. Like, we're going to have to game plan it. Like, Justin Fields is going to be looking for 97 every single where on the field.
Yeah,
that is true, man.
It's an exciting time. We can't wait. Guys, I want to switch gears to baseball. Why didn't the Cubs make those trades at the deadline? With Contreras and Happ, were you surprised that they didn't let him go?
Actually, I was happy about it. I'm a Cubs fan who thinks the Cubs should be more like the Yankees and spend more money. Contreras is still one of the better catchers in the major leagues.
Yeah,
I would myself and probably 60% of the Cubs fans would probably like to see him be signed for at least a 3-year deal. Maybe I wouldn't have been torn about Ian Happ, but the Cubs have plenty of money. They talked about when they traded these guys, Rizzo and Bryant, that they were going to try and compete rather quickly. So if they would have traded them, it would have been anarchy. I don't know if people would have stopped going to Wrigley Field games, but we would be we'd be pretty disappointed.
And Carl, the White Sox, God, they're right there. That division, you talk about a division for the taking right now.
Oh man,
are you a Sox guy, Carl?
Yeah, Vic is the Cubs guy. I'm the Sox guy.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, look, this started 2 years ago. You guys got the manager we wanted. We wanted AJ Hinch as our manager, and Tony La Russa just isn't. I don't know. My biggest complaint is that his lineup construction night in, night out is awful.
Carl, you might end up getting him since
That's
get a
right.
new GM in, they might get rid of him.
What do you think of AJ?
What do I think of him?
Yeah,
I'm a little disappointed on how he's handling the pitching staff, but tomorrow we're starting Daniel Norris. I mean, what the hell? And that's like he'll be the 16th or 17th starter this year, and that's the most in the majors. But the crazy thing is our relief corps is actually doing pretty good, but I think the honeymoon is kind of waning a little bit on him in Detroit. Now, granted, Avila didn't give him much.
No, and they just recently got rid of him, didn't they?
Yesterday they fired him.
Yeah.
And that timing was kind of a little weird because I would have thought they would either fired him before the deadline or at the end of the year. And I don't know what good it's going to do now, but I don't know, man. We don't got anybody banging on garbage cans in the dugout, so I don't know if that's going to help them. But I don't know. We had a nice run until 15, and now it's like the 1970s or the 90s now. I don't know what to make of Detroit. I really do. As far as the Tigers go, I don't know.
Look, I'll be honest. Like as a Sox fan, like I'm terrified every time we go into Comerica. Like,
really?
Like for some reason we go in there and your pitchers become like Cy Young candidates. Like we can't hit those guys.
Maybe just for that series, right? Carl.
Yeah, look, and you got some. Look, I'm looking at your roster right now. You got some really good guys. Like Shoop kills us every single time we play that guy.
I just but and I understand everybody had a short spring training.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear the injury excuse.
No.
Because
we do it all the time.
The Sox do, the Cubs do, everybody does, man.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought that he made a good trade for Meadows, but I don't know what the hell his problem is. He's had COVID, he's had vertigo, and that Paredes is playing like Roberto Clemente now down in Tampa. I mean, who would have thought that? But everything else that Avila did just, it turned to dust, man. And it's tough because we got to, finally got a taste of winning 8 years ago and going to the series with, another manager that couldn't handle a pitching staff, Jimmy Smokes, man. But hey, at least your Cubs won a World Series.
Yeah, I know, that was thrilling.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine what that'd have been like in Chicago. That must have been awesome.
It was bonkers. I mean, you see, you saw some of the news when the Raptors won, and they had all those people in the streets. Wrigley was just surrounded. I mean, block after block, and every game there was people in the streets that couldn't make it into Wrigley Field yelling, and it was just an awesome atmosphere.
And Carl, I remember 2005 when the Sox won it. That was right. 2005 was
2005. Yep.
Yeah, my son and I went to visit my parents. They lived down in Arkansas. We took the Amtrak down, and we got delayed on the way back, so we had to spend the night in Chicago downtown. And it was right after they won the series, and it was amazing. What an atmosphere that was too. I just wish we could taste it pretty soon. Man.
Listen, we would love to taste that again, but fortunately for me and Vic in our lifetime, we've seen the Sox win a World Series. We've seen the Cubs win we've seen the Bears win a World Series. We've seen the Bulls win a World. The Bears win the Super Bowl, and we've seen the Bulls win some championships. So we've been lucky in our lifetime. I mean, you had the Pistons. Win. You've had,
boy, did I hate the Pistons.
We've had,
oh my God. Yeah. We could do a segment on that.
Oh God.
With the Bad Boys and Jordan. I'd love that.
Oh my God. I still watch some of that footage. It's just like, It's intense.
It's a totally different NBA today, but yeah, for sure. Like, you know, and Vic's not much of a hockey guy, but you guys got the Red Wings. Yeah. You know, we had the Blackhawks. So we've been lucky because in our lifetime, we've seen all of our major sports teams at least win one championship.
I got to go watch the Hawks and the Wings play at the old Chicago Stadium back in '89. I think
those were awesome.
Oh, what an atmosphere there! It was chilling, you know, and that was one of my favorite games to go to ever. Was going to Chicago Stadium. I'll never forget
that
it.
That was so loud. The environment in Chicago Stadium was so loud, and so was the old Comiskey Park. Amazing,
I've never been to that.
Electric.
Oh, yeah. I would have loved to have done the game there. Yeah, I've been outside Wrigley Field that weekend I was telling you about when we were in Chicago. We went up to it. We tried to con somebody and letting us in. It was, 1st of November, but well, guys, man, this has been a lot of fun. So you say 8, 9, 9, and 8 for the Bears.
We did an episode maybe like about 4 weeks ago when the first schedule first came out and we went game by game.
Yeah.
The biggest thing we just feel like the first game is going to be against San Francisco. Us against Justin Fields against Trey Lance, both drafted last year. We both think that's going to be a win. But if they lose that first game, this could go downhill quick for us. Like, I think that those guys, I don't know. I just think that instead of going 9-8, they could easily go, 7-10, from there. But we'll see how that first game goes.
And I'm with you guys on that game because everybody's hyping up San Francisco. Lance, I don't know, man. They spent a lot of money on him, a lot of picks. And there's a lot of pressure on that guy. I don't know if he can handle it. And, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Bears pulled that off.
Yeah, the good thing is we got the game at home. So, we'll have the crowd behind us. It'll be a good atmosphere. Trey Lance starting first game on the road. So we'll see how it goes.
And our defense, honestly, even without Roquan, it's been an upgrade. Our secondary is looking pretty quick, good hands. Everything indication shows that they're going to give our line a little bit more time to get to the quarterback. So I think we beat them.
And finally, before I let you go, we get to spend a great hangover day on New Year's Day with watching the Bears and the Lions, man.
All right.
As better as that, eh?
The only thing better is watching the Bears and Lions on Thanksgiving Day. That's the only better thing.
Okay, you had to go down that road. Here's my last story, and I promise I'll let you go. 1980. Right. Do you remember that Thanksgiving game?
Was that the overtime Dave Thomas return for the touchdown, like 6-second overtime? I grew up on Lake Superior in Munising, up in the Upper Peninsula, or the UP. And we went down there for the state finals in football. We were playing the next day. So a bunch of people from Munising, about a 3,000 capacity, 3,000 is what our population was. So we're all down there. A lot of people went to that game, and I can remember how many people saying, "Man, I went to go get a beer. I went to the bathroom. I came back. The game was over." I think we blew. Didn't we blow like a 17-3 lead in that game? You guys, you guys had to lead the entire game.
Oh, yeah, that was another one bites the dust year. That's for sure.
So let me ask you this question real quick. What's it like having that Thanksgiving game every year?
I love it. I hope we
never
get rid of it.
I would love it too, Carl.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. For sure. You can plan your Thanksgiving around that game every single year.
You don't need to talk to your relatives. You can watch the game.
Well, it's funny because we're planning our Thanksgiving dinner right now, and my stepdaughter, they just bought a house down in the suburbs, and we're thinking it's their turn to host it. So we're thinking, they're playing the Bills. The guys can go to the game. And then it's in Detroit. We'll be back in time to carve the turkey at 4:30.
Yes,
and great.
We're getting the stink eye, so might have to do something a little extra special for my wife before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, for sure.
Plan,
hey, Vic and Carl, one of you guys, tell us about where we can find you on YouTube and about your podcast.
So we're on Windy City Digits. If you just look that up on YouTube, that's where we are. We also live stream also at the same time on Twitter and Facebook. We basically talk all Chicago sports. Well, I should say we basically talk Cubs,
because
Sox,
of me.
Bulls, Bears. He's not much of a hockey fan. I am. So we try to talk those primarily, but usually during the year, a lot of our followings comes from the Bears and the Bulls. It's a big Bears and Bulls team, city, so if the Cubs or Sox are winning, then everybody kind of jumps on the bandwagon and kind of watches that. But otherwise, it's all Bulls and Bears. But Captain Lou, we do appreciate you having us on.
Oh,
and
God, I love
listen,
Absolutely.
we would love to have you on. We're kind of trying to set something up. So like
anytime
before the Bears and the Lions play. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've got all the teams jumbling through my head. We'd love to do like a couple preview episodes with you before those games.
Just get a hold of me anytime, man.
And I know we didn't talk much basketball, but especially when the Pistons because we loved what the Pistons did this offseason. Like we love what you guys did.
That is true. I did like it, but I still hate them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I will never,
man.
I will never like the Pistons.
Well, that's fine. I get it.
I like the Tigers.
Well,
of course, because you're a Cubs fan, so it's all good.
I do. So. I love Alan Trammell and Whitaker and
Captain Lou. Before we kind of sneak out of here, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Harbaugh at Michigan?
I love the guy, but he got him. If we got a Big Ten championship, which is something we haven't gotten in a long time, I just wish. I don't know if he can win. I don't know if he can win at all. But, everybody wanted him fired at the beginning of last year. My question is, who are they going to get that's better to go to Michigan?
Yeah.
I like him. I mean, Dabo Swinney took 9 years to get there, and he's revered.
I'm not taking him for the
Dabo Swinney, but
we would have taken Harbaugh for a head coach. So
yeah. I'm when he went to visit Minnesota, I thought he was gone. I really did. I really thought he was gone. So I like him. He's a personality. He's not phony. Mm-hmm. And the real cool thing about Harbaugh is Michigan took their team around the west side of the state up into the UP for a tour.
Yeah.
They practice at all the cities up there. And they stopped in my hometown, was their last stop, Pitcher Rocks and a whole bit. My uncle's fighting cancer really bad, and he's in the rehab. And they stopped. His team went into his hospital room and said hi to him, and he sent a personal message to him. So
that's awesome.
Jim's really always going to have a spot in my heart now for that, And so on at a personal level, I've never met him, but I like the guy. A lot of my Michigan State friends and family can't stand him, but
Look, the only thing we have to compare it to is like Northwestern, right? And
with Fitzgerald,
Pat Fitzgerald is there's the similarity. Like Fitzgerald is a Northwestern alum, but that guy's going to stay as long as he wants. Like
I love that guy.
If he has a winning record and we go to a bowl game, we're happy. But I can't even imagine what it's like for Harbaugh on a week-to-week basis, playing in front of 100,000 plus fans every single week, and them hanging on every single win and loss. I can't imagine.
It's like being a Bears fan, or I mean, seriously,
we don't have a stadium that big.
I know, but you guys take it so serious, and I mean, you're closer to a championship than the Lions have been in the last 65 years. So, I mean, that's what I compare it to that. I mean, we got some expectations, or Michigan does, but I'm going to say right now, as much as I love Michigan, there's no way in hell they're going to beat Ohio State. No way.
Yeah.
I don't see them going down there and winning. I think that's.
Is the game at Ohio State this year?
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
I don't see it. Don't see it.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, thanks for coming on, man. This has been a blast.
Hey, we loved it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, this is great.
We do appreciate it. And like I said, we'll be in touch with you because we wanted to have you on our show.
Love to. Anytime. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks, Captain.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vic, you bet. Vic and Carl from the Windy City Digits. Check them out on YouTube. Their YouTube show. I've watched a couple of their episodes, man. They're fun. The back and forth and everything, the Cubs and the White Sox. you want some Bears knowledge, those are the guys to talk to and listen to right there. That is Windy City Digits. Vic and Carl, thanks for coming on the show. This has been an absolute treat. Hey, we're knee deep here in the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. And also check out all of our podcasts. We're powered up by Belly Up Sports. It's been an absolute blast being with this crew, with all the podcasts that we have, the live shows on Belly Up TV. And while we got a few minutes still to come at 7:45, we're going to be joined by Dylan Hebert from the All Elite podcast, and he's our New Orleans Saints insider. We're going to talk some NFC South with him. You talk about a division, in my opinion, that's ripe for the taking. And I look at their roster and I think, my God, they got some weapons on that team. Dylan's going to join us at about 7:45 Eastern time. So, and a program note, next week, we're going to be on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And then we're going to go back to Tuesdays starting in September with our show every Tuesday live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network. And one of the things that we're going to bring back that we've had here on the Extravaganza is we're going to have the Captain Lou Six-Pack Challenge. I want to talk a little bit about that while we got a minute. How that works is, for those of you that are not familiar with the show, I pick 6 games each week, 3 pro, 3 college, against the spread. Your job is to beat me on those games. If you do, you're in the drawing at the end of the year for some great prizes. We're going to have a Fanatics gift certificate, a Visa gift card, and maybe a little bit more. It's in the works. I'm working on it. So the only way you're going to find out is to make sure you tune into us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you'll have an in on that as well. Follow me on Twitter at The Real Captain Lou, and on Facebook, Louis Gamlin, or you can follow me on the Captain Lou Extravaganza Facebook page. That's how you can get your picks to me. And if you beat me on those picks, you'll be in that drawing. Some days I go 1-5. Some days I go 6-0. I've done that before, but we've had many people that are that have beaten me at least 5 or 6 times. It's a lot of fun. It's going to start the weekend, or the week of Labor Day weekend will be our first games, all college games that weekend. So I'll have more details on my Facebook and YouTube, or YouTube, I'll have it there, and also on my Twitter page. So make sure you stick around with that. All right. Hey, let's get back to our guest line, if you will, or our guest screen. And let's bring in Dylan Hebert. You catch him at The Real Dylan Hebert. Dylan, thanks for joining us tonight, man. How are you, my friend? Great to see you again.
Hey, man, I am doing good. And this is my first time on your show for this format, so it's very exciting to be here.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, we're changing some things. I was telling the guys beforehand, I was getting set up. I did a little, remodeling or reworking, moving my studio around in our basement, and I dropped my video camera. So guess what Captain Lou gets to do this weekend before high school football starts? Go buy a brand new camera, man. I tell you, some days it ain't easy. It was like I dropped it off the top rope or something last week in Grand Rapids. So before we get into the Saints, I want to tell you, I was at that show live last Friday night, the Battle of the Belts, and, you know, they had a good crowd there in Grand Rapids. I think they had about 8,000 people there. It was a lot of fun. And, you know, it was a great atmosphere. I love the show. Did you get a chance to watch it?
Yeah, I actually I checked it out. I didn't check it out live when it happened. I DVR'd it, had some family stuff I had to do. But yeah, I actually checked it out. But the sad part is Battle of the Belts has never been like the biggest thing for me to watch, you know, because you know that a title's not changing hands, because it's never changed hands, like ever.
No, I get it. And you know, you knew Wardlow wasn't going to lose, you know, but I mean, he came out. It was a decent match. But, you know, that brings me to my first question about the AEW is, do you think he can become a face of the company down the road? I mean, what do you think of his status with AEW?
I mean, I feel like Wardlow can easily be the face of a company. I'm not sure if he could be the face of AEW. I know that, you know, while this whole MJF storyline was going on with the contract situation, getting him out of MJF's contract, I know that there was reports that the WWE was, was really high on Wardlow. So that made me think that, bringing him in over there could make him easily a face over there, because Vince McMahon, when he was running the show over there, he was big on like the big guys, and Wardlow is, easily a really big guy.
Yeah.
So that made me think bringing Wardlow over there could easily make him some sort of face over there. But I feel like AEW is not really taking him too seriously right now. Even with being TNT champion, I just don't feel like they're really pushing him into the main event scene, where he can be a world champion one day.
And the other thing I got to ask you about AEW, and, Jon Moxley's match was fun. I never heard of the guy that he was wrestling. I'm going to be, totally transparent. On Friday night for Rampage. I mean, the crowd went absolutely bonkers with him. But I watch him. I saw last night's match. I didn't watch it live. I taped it or DVR'd it. I guess that's the proper term now. Nobody tapes anything anymore. It's kind of got this hardcore feel now in AEW with the blading or whatnot. My question is he turning that interim belt into a hardcore title, man? I mean, that match with, again, with Jericho was amazing that those guys can do it, especially Jericho is his age. But, I don't know. What's your feel with Moxley now with the belt?
And what Moxley is, it's not so that he's turning the title into the hardcore title. It's just every time Moxley's in the ring, he's going to bleed.
Yeah.
And that's every time. And that's my one complaint about Jon Moxley is that he bleeds every single time he wrestles. And for someone that was over there in WWE, that's something he wouldn't do like ever. And now that he went to AEW, now that he checked himself into rehab with the alcohol issue, and when he came back, it seemed like every time he wrestles now, he has to bleed for some reason. Now, and there's a lot of complaints on the internet, that the moment Jon Moxley steps into the ring, he's gonna bleed within in the first few minutes of the match, and that's every time. That's my one big complaint about Jon Moxley. I really like him as a wrestler. It's just he doesn't need to bleed every single time he fights somebody. Just have a straight up wrestling match. Right. It doesn't have to be hardcore every single time he steps into the ring.
No, I agree. Well, we'll get back to AEW and WWE, but I want to get back to what the initial thing we wanted to bring you on for is we're taking a look at the divisions around the NFL. We talked about the NFC North in our last segment. Now let's go to the NFC South, and I got to tell you, Dylan, I'm impressed. I was looking at the roster again today for the Saints. The weapons that they have on the offensive side of the ball is amazing to me. We'll get to that in a second. But my first question is, how far can Jameis Winston take you guys?
Well, if you listen to the internet, he's not going to take us far because everyone does not like Jameis. They think he's the old Jameis in Tampa where he went 30 for 30 that one year. But if you look at last year with his career, he was statistically having one of the greatest seasons of his career before the torn ACL. So you're giving him, because, look at last season. Okay, he worked with guys like Deontay Harris, who's a speed threat, and then he had Marquez Callaway, tight ends like Jawan Johnson and Adam Troutman. But you look at this season, he's healthy. He's recovered from the ACL injury. And then you're giving him Chris Olave, the rookie out of Ohio State. You got Jarvis Landry. You got a healthy Michael Thomas, who's absolutely killing it in training camp right now. So you're giving him all these offensive weapons. And even Taysom Hill is a tight end now.
Yeah.
So, and the thing with Taysom Hill is he can do everything but be a quarterback, in my opinion. So now Jameis has all these offensive weapons. I think he can take us pretty far. Now, I'm not saying, Super Bowl right now. I want to see what he can actually do. He's killing it in training camp, but training camp can only tell us so much.
Right. No, I agree. But, I look, and one guy that you didn't even talk about, you didn't mention, is Alvin Kamara. I think that, in my opinion, he's still one of the elite backs. It's funny. You don't hear a lot of talk about him, on a national level. And at least I don't, and I listen to a lot of the national shows. But he's kind of I don't know, he's not the most vocal person in the world on the national scene, but my God, you pair him with that offense, and he's such a dual threat, in my opinion. Wow, how can you not get excited about the Saints? I'm serious. They got that dreaded P word, man, potential.
Exactly. And when you look at the internet, and another thing, I'm gonna keep bringing up the internet because the internet wants to tell you that the Saints will not be good this year. Because you look at some people who claim they're an NFL analyst. When you look at it, I have more followers on Twitter than they do.
Yeah.
And then they put their little rankings out. They say the Saints are only going to win 5 to 6 games this year, which I think is absolutely bogus.
Oh,
And
wow.
and you
No,
look
go
at
ahead.
and you look at these other ones, their power rankings. They have the Saints at 22 when there's 32 teams in the league. But I mean, and then you got the Denver Broncos, who just got Russell Wilson, who's not really proven yet, and you want to put them as high as a top 10 team in the league when I mean they're not really proven yet. So the Saints have already proved that they can compete. You know, they had like what 3-4 starting quarterbacks last year, and they still did good. I mean, so look at Jameis. I think they're gonna be a good team this year. I mean, I could see them winning the division. You know, they take care of the Buccaneers every season. So I mean, they can do it.
Dylan, let's take a look at this. You mentioned 5 or 6 wins. That just hit kind of a nerve with me. Let's take a look at the schedule. All right. Start out at the Falcons. The Falcons are trash. I'm sorry. Then they're home to Tampa. You mentioned that they can hang with them. They're at Carolina. Carolina, you don't know who the quarterback's going to be. They're home to the Vikings, home to the Seahawks. That's 4-1, 5-0 right there.
Exactly.
And, and then they got some tough games, but then at the end, they've got the Panthers at home, the Falcons at home, the Buccaneers. I can see 10 wins out of that schedule. And in my opinion, I think 10 wins could win that division. I really do.
Oh, for sure. And the only team that you can really compete with in that division other than the Saints is the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Because the Falcons aren't going anywhere. Like you mentioned, the Panthers, they don't even know who their starting quarterback is.
Matt Rule might be fired before the end of the year there in Carolina.
For sure. And I'm surprised he hasn't been fired already.
Yeah. Yeah. I look at that schedule and I look at your team that now, again, we just touched on it briefly. I love the pick of Chris Olave. I mean, I watched him up here, just break my heart, being a Michigan guy and even, watching the state games. I mean, the guy is just, he's phenomenal. And I think that was a huge pickup. And he's going to, with him and Thomas, holy cow. And like you mentioned, Jarvis Landry, you talk about a trio right there. That's huge.
Oh, most definitely. Bringing in Chris Olave, I think, is just huge for the Saints offense. And this was before the Jarvis Landry pickup. So Olave was like the beginning of something special for the Saints offense. And I just think they're going to get better and better each game. Because, I mean, with the ACL injury, we know that Jameis is going to have a slower start against Atlanta. Sure. We're not going to see him firing out on all cylinders already. It's going to take him a little bit, maybe a few quarters to really find himself. But once Olave starts getting open, once Michael Thomas can actually run deep and have, get a good quarterback to throw to him, and this is not throwing anything at Drew Brees. It's just when he got older, the arm was not there anymore. So that made Michael Thomas have to run those slants that people call him out for. So now you're going to see Michael Thomas be able to run deep and actually show his true potential that I feel like he hasn't had the opportunity of showing yet. So the Saints are going to be a dangerous team, but a lot of people don't want to believe that right now.
So Michael Thomas not playing for a while, it was a combination of things, injury and holdouts and whatnot. How's his presence in the locker room? I mean, is that an issue right now? Is it one of those things where, we're all professionals, it's a business? What's kind of the vibe on that end of it with Michael Thomas?
I mean, yeah, there were some reports that he was unhappy last season and, when all that was going on with his injury. But, I mean, right now I feel like the feel is just so much better right now. Yeah. So I think, honestly, I think sky's the limit for him. He's going to have just a tremendous season, and I think even better than his record-setting one he had a few seasons ago with his receptions. It's going to be a great season for sure.
Okay, we're joined by Dylan Hebert. You can see him on Word Elite podcast. Also, he's all things New Orleans with us as well. Defensive side of the ball, I like Marcus Lattimore, and I think Ty Matthews was going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
That's my question mark for you guys. I think is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. You've had good defense, good defenses in the past. Not great in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to me that if there's any downfall, it could be on the defensive end, maybe the front four. Unless I'm missing something here, Dylan, that's kind of where I'm a little bit fuzzy on that one.
Yeah, same here. And honestly, on defense, I think the position that you really have to look at right now is the linebacking position. We were interested in bringing back Quan Alexander, but I think the Saints were only interested in maybe having him play a few snaps on the field defensively, but wanted to mainly focus on him as a special teams player. So he went to the Jets, where the Jets are offering more playing time. So now Demario Davis is on the field, who is one of the most underrated for sure in the league as a linebacker. I think he's so underrated, and the people don't look at him as one of the best linebackers because there's younger guys that are overpowering him to be a good linebacker. It's just Demario Davis, once he's on the field, he's going to cause chaos. But he needs that person with him. And I feel like Quan was the guy that he had such good chemistry with now, and not bringing him back, it leaves a big question mark as who's going to be that second linebacker. So that's what training camp does for me. That's what preseason does for me. It allows me to view the Saints defense to really see who can play alongside Demario Davis and have great chemistry. So it's not the safety position. It's not the corners. It's not even the defensive line. It's the linebacker that I'm really looking at right now. So that's my main question mark for that defensive side, is the linebacking position. Because like I said, Demario Davis can do it all. Mm-hmm. It's just he needs somebody on the side of him that can also do the same thing he can do.
So we talked about it with the division. You've got the same. The Buccaneers. Obviously, they're the sexy pick, but I know they got some weapons, but I'm not sold as much on their defense either. And then we've got two teams to me in Carolina and Atlanta that are there. Atlanta's a mess. I don't know what to make of that. And Carolina, like we mentioned, I don't even know if Matt Rule is going to make it throughout the year. What's your gut? Give me right now on August 11th, what do you think's a win total for New Orleans this year?
I mean, I know you mentioned, you can see 10 wins, when you're looking at some of those things, but there's some games in there that kind of concern me a little bit, kind of more towards the middle of that schedule. Mm-hmm. I don't have the schedule up with me right now, but yeah, there's some that I've seen that, kind of scare me a little bit, even that at home game with Cincinnati. And it's not so much on the field work of things, because I feel like it could be a back and forth shootout. And it's to the point where for that Cincinnati game, whoever has the ball last, I feel like, is going to be the one to win that game. It's going to be the fans in the crowd, because it's in New Orleans. You're bringing back Joe Burrow. You're bringing back Jamar Chase, guys who won a national championship inside that building. So you're going to have fans that are, for the Saints, but they're also going to be cheering for them too, in particular on Cincinnati's end. So it's going to be louder for Cincinnati than it should be. So that's what kind of scares me with that game in particular. But there's other games on that schedule that I feel like kind of worries me a little bit. But a win total, and the thing is, people are going to call me crazy. I could see 12 wins out of this team.
Wow. Well, it's possible, and because I think you can get, realistically go 1-1 against Tampa and 4-0 against the rest of them. That's 5-1 right there. And some of your road games are not against the strongest teams in the world, and, I look at it, you mentioned Cincinnati, you're at the Browns, which, like I mentioned to the other guys, who knows what the hell they're going to be. You don't even know their quarterback's going to be, and the Steelers is winnable on the road. And your tough games with the Ravens and Las Vegas are at home. So, I mean, I could see it, but I'll stick with 10. But I think 10 wins is going to win that division. I really do.
Oh, most definitely. And like I said, the only team that we're competing with at this point is Tampa Bay.
100%.
And if the Tom Brady news would have stuck and he wouldn't have came back, I feel like the NFC South was just it's just for the Saints to lose.
Yeah, I agree. So let's get back. Let's get back to the squared circle now. We'll jump off the top rope. I was impressed with the coffin match last night, but with the at the Quake by the Lake. But give me your impression of AEW right now. I mean, the direction it's going. I know it's kind of a broad question, but what do you think? It's been around long enough now. You see some reports where they're not getting the crowds they used to.
Yeah.
Give me your gut on it. The direction it's going.
Sadly, I feel like, and from the last time me and you talked, AEW was at its highest peak and the WWE was almost being left in the dust. But I feel like now, since we're talking about this, I kind of feel like AEW is almost trying too hard. Yeah. And I feel like now on the other end, now that Triple H is running things, I feel like once contracts start expiring over there, they're going to go back. Because look at what they're doing now. Triple H has brought back 3 people already that have been released in the past year. Mm-hmm. And I think even more is coming because there's people that are still free agents right now. And I think in the coming weeks, they're coming back. So now looking at AEW, I feel like they're going to lose people soon and they're going to lose them pretty quickly. Like guys like Adam Cole, like Malachi Black, Miro, guys that really did well over there. I feel like, and they're not being utilized too well. Like even Andrade, who even wrestled last night. Yeah. I feel like he was so good in NXT. They brought him to the main roster, and Vince didn't really use him. So now that Vince is gone, Triple H is running things. I think he has a whole new vision for this guy. I don't know. I think things are going to get crazy now that Triple H is running things over there.
What's funny is they started really bringing in some of these old WWE guys, and I don't want to say old, but ex-WWE guys, I guess. And they gave him an initial shot, but one guy you just mentioned, Malachi Black, I honestly thought he'd have a better career in WWE. Then he went to AEW and they started him out hot. And then, I watched it last night and it's like something's just missing. I like Buddy Matthews. I think he's a hell of a wrestler. I think he's a good presence as well. Mm-hmm. But, Adam Cole, he's an enigma too. I don't know. It's like to me, it's almost like they stopped developing some of their homegrown guys and gals a little bit. That just my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely. I 100% agree with you on that. But the thing with AEW, they bring in all these former talent from WWE that's been released recently, and they have to let their either 30 days, their 90 days run out if they were in NXT or the main roster. Yeah. And they bring them over and they bring them back on such a high. And then the moment that all of it runs out, they're sending them down to their YouTube show at AEW Dark that gets recorded sometimes before Dynamite. Yeah. So they brought in Ruby Soho at All Out last year. Mm-hmm. And now you never see her on television whatsoever. No. They brought in Adam Cole. I feel like they did him well, but he's battling injuries, concussions, whatnot. He's not even cleared to be in the trios tournament that they just released for the new titles with Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, because they're not even cleared to compete. But they're bringing in all these guys, and they want the crowd to get so excited, and in the moment all of the excitement's gone, then that's it. They have nothing for him. Like you mentioned, Malachi Black, he came on such a good note. He did his finisher to Arn Anderson, did it to Cody Rhodes, and then he has this feud with Cody. Cody goes over, of course. He can't let somebody else go over him. Yeah. So, and then he starts this faction with Brody King, with Buddy Matthews, and even bringing in Julia Hart. It's just, for AEW, like I said, I feel like they're trying too hard, but they're not utilizing the right people. They're constantly doing the same thing, and I feel like if they keep on doing this, they're not going to be viewed as competition anymore like they already are right now. So Tony Khan's got to change something. He's got to start, utilizing more talent, and even the homegrown talent like he had from day one. I feel like they're all in the past now. Some guys you've seen on the first ever AEW show, they're nowhere to be found right now because he's bringing in top talent that he's not really doing much with anyway.
And what do you know about MJF? I mean, is he in the doghouse that bad? Does he not? I can't figure that one out. I'm missing something here. I mean, or I don't know. Is there a storyline where he comes in maybe when Moxley wrestles Punk, and when he comes back, is he make it? I don't know. That was a guy I thought, you talk about mic skills, really good, and we could see him maybe in WWE next year. Who knows? But right now, to me, that's a waste. And I don't know what the story is with MJF.
Yeah, with MJF, he always had this whole thing saying his contract runs out in 2024, but who knows if that's actually true? Because, I mean, I go on the internet, I read all these stories from different beat writers, and they're all saying that with the whole MJF thing, they're not sure if he's actually even still with the company. They're not even sure if he's a free agent right now. It's like he's MIA right now. They have no word on anything for MJF right now. So right now, your guess is as good as mine. When it comes to MJF, I think he's a star. I think he should have been world champion by now. Yeah. But maybe if he goes somewhere else, work for Triple H, I feel like Triple H will put a title on him.
I think you would too. I mean, wouldn't that be something if you saw him and Cody Rhodes maybe next year somewhere down the road? Is there any way that Drew McIntyre wins at Clash at the Castle?
I mean, I certainly hope so. The whole thing with Roman's getting stale, the same outcome from every match of Roman. I get he's a heel. I get he has to have the outside interference. But when it's every time, it gets stale. And it's just getting old to me. With SummerSlam, because their match at SummerSlam was so good, him and Brock. Even though Brock bringing out the tractor and nearly flipping the ring. It was awesome. But the sad part is the Usos had to win it for him. Yeah. And they're the ones that really had to stack all the stuff on top of Brock. Roman really didn't do much towards the end, and I just feel like it's getting stale. So, Drew being where he's from for Clash of the Castle, I think it's just a good story right there for him to finally get a title win in front of an actual crowd.
Yeah, and, I see the writing. I see where they're still kind of leaning towards The Rock coming for WrestleMania next year, so I could see Roman getting it back. Mm-hmm. I just hope that they don't keep the strap on him all the way to WrestleMania. I don't know, maybe with Cody, there's potential, but you brought up Triple H, I mean, how much better can it be now that he's, quote unquote running things right now?
I mean, look at SummerSlam on to right now. He has done such good things. He has brought guys up that you only see on a main event, which is taped, before Raw.
Yeah.
You're seeing guys like Ricochet, of all people, getting a win on SmackDown. You haven't seen that in forever. He brought back Karrion Kross. He brought back Dakota Kai. Yeah. And then he just brought back Dexter Lumis, who I think was an up and coming star in NXT. Mm-hmm. So right now the question is, who's next? Who's coming back next? And I got two names I would love to see come back, and they're both free agents. For one, I would love to see Johnny Gargano make a comeback.
Oh my God, yeah, that'd be great.
And then Bray Wyatt.
Well, yeah, I'd mark all over that. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I dressed like him for WrestleMania 6 years ago, man. It just comes a time where everybody, it's like a good head coach. After so long, you just, they tune you out. Your ideas go stale. And Vince, he had a hell of a run. Yeah. Anybody who thinks he doesn't know what he's doing, he did for 40 years, but, his ways are old, and they're done. And, it's unfortunate the way he went out, I hope it doesn't tarnish him too much, but I'm excited for it. It does give you reason to watch it. And I guess that's the main thing. It gives us a chance to watch it. Have you been watching the stuff on A&E, the biographies or whatever on the wrestlers?
Actually, I haven't checked it out yet. My brother's been keeping up with it a lot. It's just all sitting on my DVR right now. So once I finally get a free chance, I'm gonna go sit back and binge watch all of it.
Watch Lex Luger.
That's what I've been hearing. Yeah.
Oh my God, we watched it. My wife she humors me by watching wrestling with me on Monday nights, or whatever. So I said, honey, let's watch this Lex Luger one, and it's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing.
You'll enjoy. I won't spoil it for you. But it was amazing. So, we talked about what you think about, Triple H and what you'd like to see. I just saw something tonight before we came on that said something about Cody Rhodes is advertised for a match at the end of this month. How in the hell is that possible against Seth Rollins? Is that just something old that somebody may have dug up? I mean,
yeah, for sure. I
that
think it's got to be
quad
something
was
old.
tore. Holy cow.
Yeah, after seeing Hell in a Cell and seeing how that
Yeah.
pectoral muscle was, I don't think he comes back anytime before the Rumble. I think he comes back at the Rumble, surprisingly, and I think he wins it.
Yeah. So I think we're both in agreement on Roman Reigns. I don't mind the Usos as the tag champs.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind some fresh blood. You think the Street Profits are going to split up?
I mean, I think for me, I thought they were, but now that Triple H is running things, I feel like he's going to bring them back as the vision he had them in NXT. NXT, the Street Profits were fantastic, and they're good on the main roster. And I feel like if one was to break out as a main star, I think obviously it's Montez Ford.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing was, Angelo Dawkins also could be a star because he's one of those underrated stars people don't look at too much. So I think both of them in their own way could be a good single star, but I really enjoyed them together. So I really hope that they're not one of the tag teams they end up breaking up, because sometimes change isn't always good when it comes to breaking up a tag team. We've seen this in previous times. So right now I say keep them together, but if you're going to break them up, at least have a good plan for them in the future.
So what you working on for your next thing with World Elite Pod?
Well, we just released an episode on Monday, and we're dropping one on Saturday. It's one to give kind of a tribute for the 20 years of Rey Mysterio. Okay. So we got that coming out Saturday. So, and then on next month, we just started partnering up with the ATB network, and they needed a football show for the Saints. So the same guys who run World Elite were going to be running ATB Saints. That's going to be debuting September 1st. So we'll have that going as well.
What you're going to feature on there? Can you tell us, or are you still working on it?
Oh, no. I mean, we're going to be bringing in guests who are either fans of a team who we're playing against, if they're already with the ATB network and they run kind of a channel for their team. Like, for instance, week 1 for the Falcons, I think we're bringing in like 5 people to come on a show with us. So it's going to be a jam-packed show. But the first episode is going to be kind of like a get to know us, like for people who don't know us from World Elite, who don't know who we are, and then they'll kind of know who we are. And then we'll kind of give some past Saints memories we either witnessed live on TV that we really enjoyed. It's just stuff to get to know us a little bit better.
Well, it sounds like fun. I'll have to check it out for sure. Dylan, hey, thanks for coming on again. I really enjoyed it. It's always a lot of fun talking football and wrestling with you. We'll get you back on close maybe to Survivor Series. We'll see how the Saints are doing, and maybe we'll have a new champion in WWE or AEW. We'll wait and see. Dylan, thanks again for coming on.
Oh, absolutely. Whenever you want me back on, you know the drill. Just hit me up on Twitter, and I'll be here.
All right. You can catch him at Real Dylan Hebert, and also check him out at World Elite Pod. That's Dylan Hebert. Dylan, thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Well, hey, what great conversation tonight. And I swear to God, I honestly think that, you look at that Saints roster, okay, and you look at the weapons that they have, and you tell me with that division, that division, I mean, Tampa's had a run. They're, as long as you got Tom Brady there, obviously you're going to be good. But they don't have Gronk. Their defense to me is good, but it's not great. And New Orleans is not afraid of Tampa. Then you got Carolina and Atlanta, and like I said, nothing scares me about them. I can see 10-6 very easily winning that division, or 10-7, I should say, and that'll at least get them in the playoffs as a wild card, because I think 10-7 is getting in the NFC, possibly 9-8. That's going to be the beauty of this year. If you're a fan of a team like I am, the Lions, I know I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but for the Saints to wrap it up with them, I think that, 10-7 is going to get them in, and I think that's what their record's going to be. Thanks to Dylan Hebert for joining us, and we're going to wrap things up here in a few minutes. A couple of topics we wanted to get to. Obviously, let's stick with football. And how many of you watched Hard Knocks episode 1 this week on HBO? man, I got to tell you, Dan Campbell had me ready to run through a wall. I know I've said it all the time, with all the coaches, I'm always drinking the Kool-Aid. I thought at first when Matt Patricia came in, he'd be decent, but I didn't know he'd be such a buffoon. And, you got, Jim Caldwell, everybody, I've said it before. I'll say it one more time. Jim Caldwell won some games, but he couldn't get us over the hump in the playoffs. He got us. And, I didn't blame the Lions for trying to improve themselves. I didn't know they would take such a huge step back. But Dan Campbell, I mean, the players love him. They showed it last year. They'll run through a wall for him. But you can love him and you can do all that. But now it's time to go. Now it's time to prove it. But episode 1 was awesome, getting to, you met the coaches, you saw the back and forth with them, and they've played. A lot of them have played 8 to 10 years, if not more. And I got to tell you, as I was telling my wife, we were watching it, Aaron Glenn will be a head coach next year somewhere. I could see him in Carolina. I could see him, anywhere. He is going to be a head coach. Detroit better soak it up and enjoy the knowledge that he's going to bring, because that man is going to be a head coach. Deuce Staley, I think, is going to be a head coach. Shocked he wasn't in Philadelphia. He's going to be a head coach. But, the spotlight they had on Campbell and the coaching staff was really good. Now Detroit plays their first exhibition game. That's going to be interesting to see. I don't know how much Goff is going to play. They said they're going to play a little bit in the first quarter, but now with Hard Knocks, I want to see some of the battles for the guys that are close to making it. And Aiden Hutchinson singing Billie Jean, that was pretty sweet. Yeah, it was funny. It was good. But I got to tell you, I love getting back to the coaching staff. How can you not like them? I know it's results driven. 3-13-1 is garbage. And, Williams brought that up in that impassionate speech. How many saw that? And it was great what he said. We're not an R-rated show. I could tell you block your ears, how many F-bombs, but it's HBO. But I love his passion. That was a huge pickup for Detroit last year. Go with Swift. And Detroit's got one of the best offensive lines in the game. We'll break all that down. But as far as Hard Knocks went with the way, with the coaching, getting to know the coaches and, what they're all about, and the back and forth that, they had in their scrimmage, that was sweet, man. That was sweet. Oh, tough guy. 5-yard screen pass. Real tough. Man, that was awesome. Glenn, man, he was just, they were both trashing it up. And, you can make fun of Dan Campbell doing the 40 ups and downs, but, there's no way I could do it, even when I was 27, let alone going on 57. Not that Campbell's that old. I am. But so anyways, can't wait for episode 2 next week. And it'll, I'm sure, get more in depth. We'll get a look at them, after their preseason game. The Lions play tomorrow night. We've got one preseason game going on right now. Football's back, baby. How can you not be excited? Especially in Detroit when you got a Tigers team that is in the tank bad. I mean, really bad. We'll talk about that in a second. But one more reminder about what we got coming up here. It's our show the week of Labor Day. We got the Captain Lou 6-Pack Challenge. We're bringing it back this year on the Extravaganza. How that works is I got 3 games, college, 3 pro, throughout the year, except for the first week. We'll do all 6 college games. How this works, I pick them against the spread. Your job is to try to beat me on those games. If you do, you're in the drawing for some great prizes, a boatload of prizes. We're going to have, it's bigger and better than ever this year. We'll go through the list of prizes. I know we're going to have a Fanatics gift card, another Visa gift card we're going to give away. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to get more and more. We've got them in the works. How do you get those picks to me? It's very easy. Follow me on Twitter at Real Captain Lou. Follow me on Facebook. My picks will be posted there as well. Follow me at the Captain Lou Extravaganza Facebook page, or you can email them to me, CaptainLouSports@gmail.com. It's that simple, and it's a lot of fun. We get a lot of participation with it, and we hope you're a part of it too this year. That contest starts again the show of Labor Day week, because we got some big college football games. I think Notre Dame and Ohio State kick off that week. So that ought to be fun. Well, last thing I want to talk about real quick, got a couple of minutes. We talked about it with Vic, we talked about it with Vic and Carl from the Windy City Digits. Al Avila got fired yesterday for the Tigers. Hooray. I've never lobbied for anybody getting fired. You've seen me on this show. I never campaigned for a coach getting fired. I've been through some bad ones, man. Matt Patricia, Rod Marinelli, Jim Caldwell was decent. Obviously, compared to what we've had the last 3 years, he's Vince Lombardi. And, I don't lobby for anybody getting fired. I honestly thought, like I mentioned, I thought getting Austin Meadows was a great trade at the beginning of the year, but, he's been injured and been a bust. But he hasn't done anything for the Tigers in 8 years. Took over for Dombrowski, who brought Detroit 2 World Series appearances and one hell of a pitching staff. But we had Jim Leland, who couldn't manage the pitching staff. So Al Avila takes over. What do we got to show for it? Another rebuild coming. We're going to get a high draft pick. Big deal. We want results, baby. Detroit's looking at a 100-loss season right now. I think they've got 50 games left. Got 42 wins. They got to go. If I'm not mistaken, I'll have to look up the standings real quick. It's not good. They're not going anywhere. Why get myself all worked up about it? But Al Avila had his run. Now, we got Chris Zillage, the owner. He doesn't even know who's on the team. I'm surprised he even knows that Miguel Cabrera is on the team. It's a farce. It's a joke. It's a tough time to be a Detroit sports fan, as we know. The Red Wings, we got Stevie Y. He's turning it around. A couple more years, we'll be back. The Lions, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, obviously. I got the shirt on. We got the helmet right over there. But the Pistons, the boys on Windy City Digits have more faith in them than I do right now. But who knows? But Al Avila's out. It's going to be interesting to see. I've talked to a couple of friends of mine. Todd Corder, a guest of the show here in the past, has said they should go after Theo Epstein. Do you really think that Theo Epstein would want to work for a guy like Chris Ilitch, unless he pays him, $20 million a year? If that's the case, you're going to see the price of the hot and readies go up at Little Caesars, that's for sure. Well, hey, that's going to do it here tonight for the show. I want to thank Vic and Carl from the Windy City Digits. Check them out on their YouTube channel by the same name. They got a great show. Great show. A lot of great banter back and forth on that. And also want to thank Dylan Hebert from the World Elite Pod for joining us talking Saints and the world of professional wrestling. But most of all, I want to thank you, the viewer, for taking time out to be with us. I want to thank the folks at Belly Up Sports. And it's great to be with them here with our weekly podcast. Again, a reminder, next week, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Check out my Twitter page at The Real Captain Lou. I'll get you, once we get the guests lined up, we will let you know who that's going to be. But it's going to be fun. We're going to talk football again next week. We'll go through Hard Knocks episode 2, and we will also talk about the first preseason game for everybody. Although a lot of the starters aren't going to play, it's one of those things. They just don't play. But, hey, it's football. We get to watch it. Can't wait. So, again, thanks for joining us, everybody. This reminder, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, please, keep your minds open. Hang in there, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for joining us here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So long.